Hello, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Cultural Communication Confidence with me, Victoria Reynoldson. And today we have a guest joining us, Enfys Maloney. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Well, for some of you, you may recognize the name, or if you're watching, recognize Enfys. In fact, she has been on my podcast recently. She was helping me to celebrate the book launch, which was only a few weeks ago. And we were celebrating with her coming on the show and interviewing me. So if you haven't listened to that episode, do go back and have a listen to that. But today we're going to do things the other way around. Today, Enfys is coming on the show as my guest. And I'm really excited to have Enfys. She's somebody who I have worked with, has been a mentor to me, is a very close friend. And I'm really excited to have her on the show to share more around her insights and her knowledge of around connections, conversations, and CEOs. Being a leader, what does it take? What do leaders need? So, Enfys, first of all, thank you so much for joining me again here on the podcast. It's amazing to have you here. Why don't you share with the listeners to start off with a little bit about yourself and what it is that you specifically do?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me back. Wonderful to be here, and congratulations once again on your amazing book launch. Um, so I'm Enfys Maloney, and I run sales training with Enfys. And this business is designed to help service-based business owners make more sales more comfortably. And as we operate in a digital space, so we working virtually, a key part of my work and the sales strategy that I help my clients to build is so much to do about fostering great connections and fostering connections that create opportunity rich conversations will change your life. And so, as part of my sales training brand, I have a community called Vibrant Connections, and this is just one of the ways in which I facilitate great spaces online. But this one in particular is online, but I also do in person events where we can gather like-minded individuals to have quality conversations. And the reason I say quality conversations is because not all conversations are high caliber. We can waste a lot of time having kind of like boring conversations. Networking can become really stale, really painful, and not opportunity rich. Or with a correct facilitation, it can unlock doors to who knows what. So I'm exploring what great connections, great conversations, great communications can do for founders, business owners, CEOs as they build, as they grow.
I love that. And I think you said some fascinating kind of phrases there. One that I particularly picked up on was quality conversations. And this is something that comes up as a question in my world because, I know that for some people, they find networking challenging. Just even the idea of in person networking, walking into the room, it's a bit, I've got to go talk to a whole lot of people that I don't know. How do I do that? How do I get beyond just the surface level small talk? So, what do quality conversations look like to you? How do you encourage more of that deeper, beyond the surface level chat going on?
I think first and foremost, we've got to be able to ask good questions. Like we have to take some responsibility about the quality of our own conversations. Like you can't just rely on who you're talking to be interesting. You have got to draw out that quality. There's so much that we don't know because we don't ask. And actually asking just some better questions, opens all sorts of different conversations, asking how your travel was, or asking how the weather is, or asking how the dog is, or what the kids are doing at university. It keeps the conversation superficial to a certain extent. So we can arm ourselves or prepare ourselves with what are some key questions that you could ask that just unlocks more interesting discussion. But that is, that takes a level of bravery, and I think, and a bit of preparation. Like so for me, when I facilitate spaces, I provide questions. You know, I have question cards, and I'm like, go and skip over the small talk and go and ask each other these questions. And the richness of the conversation is dramatically changed because of the questions set. But you don't have to be set a question by me. You can go yourself and think of the key questions that produce interesting answers. And the other thing about networking is, if you're shy and you don't want to speak, literally you just ask the questions and they will think you're the most fascinating person in the room, you know. So you can ask key questions and draw out from others, like their passions, their projects. What are they working towards? What's challenging for them right now? And create an environment where sharing is normal, I think.
Mm.
And when you do, things change. Things change.
Yeah. I love that. And I like the idea that the role of curiosity plays. So asking questions, getting deeper than just that surface level. I also heard you talk about bravery, that idea of leaning into the conversation rather than leaning out of it, which I think is also very, very interesting. But also preparation. So people expect conversations to be spontaneous and to be just, off the cuff. And of course they can be, but it sounds like actually sometimes spontaneity requires a bit of preparation.
I think so. I think it requires a little bit of both. You know, we need to be able to dance between these two approaches. You know, you if you're going networking, if you're going to an elite event, or if you're circulating with really influential individuals, you there's an opportunity there for you as a leader, as a business owner, as a CEO, as a manager moving up. There's to be in a room with, I call it like proximity to influence, right? If you've got that proximity to influence, surely you want to draw out something tangibly useful. You want to be useful to them. They want to be, and this idea that like establishing a really strong network benefits both parties. You're not there to take, you're there to give and take. So what are you giving? You know, what are you receiving? I think looking at your role as I don't want to say like a player in that role, like you're a key figure in that space, recognizing your own role and thinking, oh, how can I create something from this conversation? How can I create something from this event that actually does not yet exist? You know, and we just use the power of great conversation, curiosity, great questions, and bravery to go and speak to somebody who you don't know is key,
Mm.
you know, because we've got such hesitation to approach new people, but everybody was a stranger once. You know, those key players in your world now, those key individuals in your world now, in your network now, they were completely strange. They were complete strangers before you went to talk to them, and you'll find common ground. You might need to do some of that small talk to find some common ground to find those passions, but equally we're not there just to talk. In a networking, a professional networking situation, there is a responsibility on that event, not just waste your time or whoever is in the room. You want to cultivate a space of progress, right? And
Mm.
um, and that's what I'm really passionate about. And I'm also, do you know what? This sounds very serious, right? I'm like, we can have a lot of fun with this. We can have so much fun with just being a bit bolder, a little bit braver, and a little bit, maybe a bit more authentic to who you are as a person, rather than like masking and pretending to just fit in. You know, you can go in and have that presence and kind of claim your position a little bit.
I really love that because actually that talks about creating a more meaningful conversation rather than just, how are you? Yeah, fine, you. And I think that's really great because that works in live experiences, but also in virtual, right? Like that can also work in those environments where people are trying to connect virtually and perhaps don't see each other very often.
Absolutely. You can, I think, you know, pre-COVID, we used to think that, you know, if you met online, they weren't like, it's not a real relationship, or it's not a real friendship, or it's not a real connection. But actually, some of my greatest business buddies now, I've met online, met virtually. networked with virtually, worked with virtually, maybe for months, maybe even a year. Do you know what? I've never met one of my assistants, and she has supported my business for 3.5 years. We're very, very close. I've never met her. So we can create and cultivate important relationships online. I actually believe that they come to life in person. I would love to meet my wonderful assistant. And I know that time will come, but we will be like close, even though we've not met. And I think it's about understanding how you can communicate online because it is a bit more nuanced. It's harder, but it's worth it. And we live and it's so full of opportunity. It means that you don't have to travel. You can speak globally. You can have a conversations with somebody who isn't just, I'm in the field up here in Snowdonia. Most of my connections are nowhere near. And having that virtual space to cultivate a strong network and have great conversations, so I don't get bored up here by myself, is really important. And then
Yeah, I, I hear what you're saying. And I think it's really interesting, that idea of, yes, live in person is great, but that's not always possible. And I hear that example there. And I know that from sort of when I'm working with the people on my side, that whether it's clients or people who are sort of asking for my help, what I've noticed is actually it's really hard sometimes to make that space and time virtually for the conversation, for the connection. It's almost easy to use the collaboration tools we have, the Teams, the Zoom, be really productive and efficient and do lots of little meetings. But actually having a real connection on conversation online, that's really interesting. So I love that you're talking about this as well, Enfys. And I'd love to sort of move into something a little bit different, because I know another part of what you do, which is really something which I know about, is your CEO days, where you focus on giving space and time for CEOs to really mastermind and reflect on their business. Talk to me about this. Like, why is there that need to have a space for CEOs?
So I recognize this as something that I really needed myself. So I support hundreds of clients. I'm speaking and delivering an enormous amount. And I have my own mentors, but they're kind of distant. And I was like, oh, I need a peer circle. I need to create a space for people who are in a similar space in their own leadership journey, people who are running sizable like organizations or brands who want to come and have a confidential space to exchange expertise and to get help with the stuff that, at this level, you can't. Where do you go and mastermind? Where do you go and thrash out your ideas? Where do you go and share some of the real issues in your own business, which feel safe to share? So I was thinking I need to create this intimate, they're kind of private events. They're private CEO days. The next one, or the theme for the current series, is obliterate the possible, which I think is just really powerful, because what we're doing here is striving. We're creating important businesses. We're creating, brands. We're supporting so many others, but who's supporting us? We don't necessarily always need like somebody who's miles ahead. Actually, I've said it before. I said it in our interview, in our last interview. Like, leaders need leaders, and mentors need mentors, but also like leaders just need company. It can be pretty lonely. It can be we're navigating all these different stages as we develop our businesses. I'm developing my own business, and I wanted to create a really safe space to exchange expertise, to share ideas, to cultivate connections, and be in a really influential room. And I couldn't find it. So I thought I better host it. So my
Absolutely.
first one, my first one is next week, and I'm really excited. And then the next one will be in a few months' time, and that's the rhythm that they'll go. Probably be back quarterly. So
Mm.
these CEO day retreats are the space for people to gather in a high caliber room and explore what they can do together as opposed to individually.
I love that. And I think I can see how that is very much needed. And one of the thoughts that kind of crosses my mind thinking about it is that the leadership challenges that come up, are they evolving? Are they sort of kind of changing over time? And are you seeing kind of new types of challenges come in? Or do you think they're just sort of common themes that are part of growing, scaling businesses, being the leader of a business that is bringing in, multi six figures and has a wide team that needs to be led towards the future and the mission?
The the challenges are they expand with the expansion of the business. There's more to navigate. There's more decisions. There's it's just everything gets amplified as you build, and sometimes the challenges are widespread, but usually they're kind of focused. Like um, this is what needs to be worked through at the minute, and then you'll get to the next one, and that's part of the process. I don't think you can progress and grow without meeting these challenges and overcoming them. And then you look back and you reflect on those things that really stressed you out, like 6 months, 12 months, 18 months ago. You're like, I do that in my sleep now. Do you know what I mean? We can normalize these challenges as well. Like, when I had my first difficult client, that was agony. And now I'm like, well, if I'm supporting hundreds and hundreds of clients, and even though I probably still only get one a year, now there's a process around it, because as you scale, everything grows, and the tech and the system and the processes. What was a complete muddle and held together with chewing gum and blue tack to begin with is actually now a pretty comprehensive system. But it's still, in a year's time, I will look back at this time and be like, oh, it was still held together with chewing gum and blue tack. But it isn't compared to what it was. And yeah, the sophistication of the operation grows. And with that, you need to understand what a sophisticated operation even means. What does team management looks like? Bringing on new team members and onboarding and then managing them. It's a full-time job really, and expanding what the brand stands for and the self-leadership of like how you visibly show up for what you want to be known for. That's pretty terrifying, and completely non-negotiable. So how do you navigate that visibility aspect and potentially being frightened of what people think or frightened of judgment, which is a massive, massive thing with regard to being visible. Um, and then, yeah, so the challenges, I think, and I don't expect them to ever disappear. I'm just always kind of curious as to what's going to be next.
Yeah.
So not to be frightened of the challenges is kind of a good state to be in, and to always know that somebody can help you. Somebody has experienced it before. So this is why the CEO days are so important, because I'm like, oh my God, I might be experiencing something new. But somebody else is like, oh, don't worry, this is what I did. This is what this is what I did. Da, 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 da. And equally, somebody else will be like, they're panicking about that, or they're concerned about this. And I will be in a position to be like, listen, that is so simple. Let's break it down. So this exchange of expertise, but this exchange of support, I think is just so needed and completely rare. I just don't see enough of it. So I think, yeah, it's lonely at the top is kind of real, and that's why these spaces are needed for whatever stage you're at. There's always a room that you will benefit from being in, and then the others will benefit from you being in that room equally.
I love that. And I think that idea of a trusted, confidential space to be able to work through what the challenges that you're facing. Challenges, of course, are natural, they're to be expected. It's how you respond to that. And that's what I'm hearing very much here. But I want to pick up on one thing that you talked about, which I think is really interesting and I think resonates as well. This idea of visibility, because whoever is listening to this, whatever they're doing, whether they are working in a huge multinational organization, in a smaller business, they're running their own business, visibility is key for you to achieve kind of the goals. Visibility is needed. And you talked about something very interesting there, that idea of scaling up visibility and how it's not always that easy. In fact, it's terrifying was the word you used. just talk to me a bit about this, how you see visibility and how you manage yourself through those situations when you feel tested around the boundaries of that. Because I think our listeners would really learn from that conversation.
I think this is a huge topic, actually. I'm going to condense maybe like an hour's answer into like a few lines. But first and foremost, I think before you just go loud and proud and decide to be visible, I'd be kind of curious for you to find out like why. What are you trying to achieve from your visibility strategy? What is the point? And if you can, if there's a real fundamental reason, you've got a message to share, impact to make, you're growing and scaling your business, you want to get known in a particular field, you're building your reputation, or just a why, why? And then when you think, oh, I don't want to, or I might miss this today, or actually I'll just wait, to be like, well, does what you want to achieve rely on you being visible? For me, it's a yes. I'm cultivating a big sales training brand. We're well known for the work that we do in the small business space, particularly. But and if I'm not visible, my next clients just will not find me. So how can I help them? How can I serve them if they don't know I'm available to them? So my visibility strategy is an audience growth strategy. It's a strategy for me to share my message and to help others before they become clients and to expand the brand. And we can do this like in the kind of micro moments, like the last couple of days. Okay, so I'm sitting on a podcast with you today, and I would call that like higher level, top of funnel activities. You're building a visibility. But literally yesterday, the day before, I haven't had time to be like all polished or anywhere. I've just taken my phone, my Instagram out with the dog. I took my Instagram followers out on a dog walk with me yesterday. And I was like, do you want to come on a dog walk with me? And I was like, this is a bit about my day. This is a bit about what I'm up to. If you want to if you need my help, here's something for you. And that just sort of drip thread, light touch visibility, it compounds. So seemingly 4 minutes me doing my Instagram stories doesn't seem important, and it's not in isolation. But as a compounding visibility strategy where I'm paired with like articles in the press, paired with the podcast releases of my more official visibility items. Mind go completely blank there. This like it's important to be visible. Like, and it's important because the reason it's important is because it cultivates a relationship between you and your next clients before they're clients, before they get into my Zoom room. They have a feeling of what I'm about, and they know that I'm a hillbilly in North Wales, and then I jet off to London or somewhere, and I go from glitzy to hillbilly pretty quickly. I've got one foot in a welly and one foot in a stiletto, so they get to know the brand. But the reason I'm comfortable and confident doing it now is because I did it when I was uncomfortable and unconfident for a really long time, and now it's kind of a habit that I don't question. But to begin with, visibility is very frightening, you know.
Mm.
But if you go back to why you're doing it, then it's also non-negotiable. So we have to embrace the share and get your voice out there, get your brand out there, so you can better serve your next clients or get that promotion, be known in your organization, be a key figure in your industry, and put yourself forward.
I really like that, because I think the way you translate that as well into for people who are on their career path, because it's also about your personal brand. And I think people forget this, that even if you don't think you kind of have one, everybody does. You're known for something, right? So that visibility is really about projecting that personal brand, about enabling the why. And I think that's a really powerful insight, because the fear of showing up, the fear of being seen, the worry, as you said, of being judged, that often stops people. But actually, if you can move through that, and I know it myself as well, you can move through it and just go, well, I'm doing it anyway. Like, I'm not waiting to feel confident before I do the thing. I'm going to do it anyway. And then over time, it will get easier. I think that is really critical. And that's applicable right across the board, right? From small businesses all the way through to people who are building their careers.
Yeah. And I think, if you really think about who we're comfortable of being seen by, it's very often the people closest to home, you know? And so we've got to be like, actually, are you going to let your neighbour's friend be the person that stops you from pursuing your career or progressing your business or being visible just in case you're worried about that person over there? Thinking like that's a we can't give that we can't give that decision away. And visibility comes in many forms from just like going to events, going networking, going being visible on the stage, being visible in the press, being visible on podcasts, being visible um, on social media, on LinkedIn, in your organization, and putting yourself forward. So start small and then push out the boundaries of what's comfortable, but do it quickly so you can create some momentum around, you know, what you're working towards.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant because you've got to make that first step, haven't you? Because otherwise you just stay in the stuck zone. So making that first step and then expanding from there. That's a really powerful message, Enfys. I really appreciate that. I'm really conscious. This time has absolutely flown. I've really loved this conversation. There is so much more I would have loved to ask you, but I think we've touched on some really powerful themes and topics here today, talking about sort of human connection and conversations, creating real, genuine conversations, thinking about this idea of why CEOs need space and time to be able to share and learn and share the challenges and talk them through. And then finally, this really important topic of visibility. I greatly appreciated your insights and wisdom on that. And Enfys, you really, you've been great to have you on the show, particularly as you've been very kind to come on my show only very recently. But before we finish, I'm really keen for people to know more about, if they're interested in your work, where can they find you? What are the things that they can get involved in that you might be able to help them with?
I think we've got so many different free resources and mini courses and events going on. The best thing that I would like to suggest for your audience today is to go and follow me on Instagram, sales training with Enfys, and send me a message saying Victoria, and I will send them a special something.
Excellent. Well, that's very kind. And I'm sure that'll be a great way for them to obviously learn more about you as well. Thank you so much for that. And Enfys, really appreciate the conversation here today. I think it was really powerful, very high impact. And I know our listeners will have learned a lot from it. We'll put all your links in the show notes. But thank you so much for being here on the show with me today.
My pleasure. Great to be here. Thanks, Victoria.
Thank you. And see everyone next time.